Welcome to Mulberry Conversations, a podcast for business leaders and job seekers, where we discuss insights and strategies with leading professionals to help you navigate the ups and downs of today's competitive job market. Today's conversation is brought to you by Mulberry Talent Partners, a full-service recruiting, temporary staffing, and executive search firm offering talent advisory services to individuals and organizations serving the Pacific Northwest and San Francisco Bay Area. Today we are joined by Madelyn Mackie, a certified career management coach, a nationally certified online profile expert, and a National Resume Writers Association member. Madelyn is a career advocate who helps clients build unique resumes and career plans. Today, she will talk about her process of assisting professionals to advance by creating a vision, cultivating their resources, and activating their career dreams to achieve their desired life-work balance.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lauren. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I am doing excellent. It's good to see you again.
Yes, for sure. I've been so looking forward to this conversation.
Yes. How have things been going for you as the year comes to a close?
It's good. I think there's a lot of candidates on the market right now, and it just seems that the hiring has really slowed. And and it's a little bit different from years past. Like we can forget COVID for a minute because that was just one part, but it seems a little bit more, it's quieter, and I think there are more people on the market. So have you also felt the same?
Yeah, I'm feeling like any of my candidates that have not found a job yet are starting to panic because things have gone silent. And usually we always see a slowdown in November, December. First of all, the slowdown started sooner than normal, but we always see a slowdown, but I've rarely seen a complete stop. And right now it feels like almost a complete stop, that companies are like, they're in a holding pattern at the moment.
Why do you think that is?
I think some of the unrest in the world, especially for our global and international companies, they're just at a pause where they're like, there's a lot happening right now, and we don't know how this is going to impact us.
It's true.
I think that's one of the big things. I also think people are just tired. I think there is a heaviness and that I'm sensing out there that companies are just like, we're fine. We're fine. We just need to hold, again, a holding pattern. Everything is working. Let's not rock the boat. They're like, the head count is fine. They're not laying off. That has trickled off. We're not getting an email or message every other day saying this company is now laying off 30 people and this company is laying off 3,000 people. That has slowed down. So they're like, we're stable. We're fine. Let's not rock the boat.
Yep. You're right. They're being conservative that way. One thing that I haven't heard in a long time is the layoffs at national staffing agencies.
Yeah.
That is, and the numbers.
Yeah.
Is that part of the same, it really is similar, or it's part of that as well?
Yeah, I think it's a trickle effect because what I was hearing when they were going through the mass layoffs, one of the departments hit the hardest was recruiting. They laid off their entire recruiting workforce. Right. There have never been as many recruiters in the workforce right now looking for work than I don't know how long. And I think it's just trickled down that once the internal recruiters got laid off, then the externals were like, wait a minute, companies aren't hiring right now. We don't need as many agents. And so they're laying off too.
Yeah.
It's just, and which I find interesting because they laid off their internal recruiters. So you need that external workforce. You need that external recruiting, those staffing firms to fill your roles. But they're like, nope, we're not filling roles. They really are on a hiring freeze right now.
Yeah.
Like, nope, we're not hiring anybody right now.
Absolutely. What's so interesting is when you and I first talked, and it was your energy and your passion. And I'm sure you hear that a lot. And I know it's in your bio, but truly it is infectious and authentic. And, that's who you are. And I love that you use the word career activator, chief career activator. I have not heard of that title or positioning what you do that way. And it's very inspiring. So I wanted you to know that.
Thank you.
And so I think that today we're talking about activating your career dreams. And, I would imagine in this market that there's different stages or different places where that can actually take root. And right now it's a little bit tough. We just talked about the market and what's going on there. If we could talk a little bit more about what we're going to talk about today and what you would like to share with people that have the good fortune to listen to our conversation.
Sure. I think the big thing that I see is a lot of people just don't know where to start to activate their career.
Mhm.
Because most people, it's either their career transition is forced upon them because of a layoff or a bad toxic work environment,
Mhm.
or internally. There's the external factors and the internal factors. So the internal factors is they just want something different. They want to be promoted. They want to advance. They want to stay at their company, but they want to do something different. But I get a lot from both parties. I don't know where to start. So I think that's a good place for us to start on our conversation of where do people start who want to do something a little bit different in their career and everything. And then we can walk through. I usually have 3 steps that I talk to people about: creating a vision, cultivating the resources, and then activating. Because a lot of people get stuck in creating the vision or cultivating the resources, right? We all love research. We love trying to figure things out. So I can just through our conversation walk people through those 3 steps of where do you get started, how do you get started, which is creating that vision of what you want, where you want to go. Then now that you have the vision, the next step is what do they do next? They need to slow down and cultivate some resources, whether it's writing their resume, getting some education, doing some market research, doing some networking. You got to cultivate some resources. And then finally, you have to activate with SMART goals. And that's the key component of how do you stay motivated, right? Especially in a market like this, especially this time of year. How do you stay motivated to in with your career when right now this is a really great time to coast, or a phrase they were using a year or so ago was quiet quitting. But how do you keep engaged with your own career and not just let it happen to you?
So you're talking about both people that are employed and starting to look,
Yes.
right? Or people that are unemployed and looking. There's probably a difference, right? Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So let's start with those that are unemployed. The unemployed are like, what else should I be doing? Right? They're looking for a magic formula. They're like, Madelyn, what else you got? And I tell them over and over again, it's like doing the laundry, right? You got to sort, wash, dry, fold, sort, wash, dry, fold. And the job search is the same way. It is, you have to research, network, apply, interview, research, network, apply, interview. There's no magic formula. The magic is the consistency. Whether you spend 5 minutes a day on your job search or 5 hours a week, it doesn't matter as long as you're consistent. And I think one of the biggest mistakes sometimes people make in a job search is they come out like gangbusters and they're like, I applied for 30 jobs and I've reached out to my network and I updated my LinkedIn profile, and they did that for 2 weeks and then they stop. And I think it's more important that if you just spend 15-20 minutes a day, you're like, I'm going to connect to one person a day. I'm going to apply for one job a week. But you're consistently doing that. You're going to actually see better results. It's almost like, the person that works out for 3 hours one week and then doesn't work out for the rest of the month.
Right. Okay. That makes it very clear.
That makes it very clear. Then for the person that's employed, that is wanting to do something different, whether they want to do an internal transition to another role, another department, or they want to transition out of the company, I think the biggest thing to do is, again, that same thing, creating a vision, cultivating the resources, and activating is really get some clarity as to what that next job is. And we can talk about the specifics of how to find that clarity. My big thing is I tell people all the time, find the job description, find your next job, find the next job you want at the company, and analyze it. Copy and paste it into Microsoft Word. Highlight the things you know how to do in green, highlight the things you don't know how to do in yellow. And what you've just done is a skills assessment and a gap analysis, and it's visual, right? Because if you look at that job description and half of it's green and half of it's yellow, the yellow things, that's your professional development plan. That's the skills you need to be learning. That's the things you need to be talking about your supervisor with, of saying, hey, I want to gain these skills. Can you help me create a plan so that I can acquire these skills within the next 12 months? Can I take on more projects? Can I participate in meetings that cover this topic that I want to learn more about? Talking to your mentor about it, because now it's very tactile, right? When you take a job description, you highlight the things you know how to do in green, you highlight the things you need to know in yellow, you visually see, oh, green things, that needs to be on my resume. Those are the things I need to write on the resume. The yellow things, those are things I got to learn. That's the things I got to be ready for. That's the thing I got to ask questions about. And so by doing that, even if you have no intention of applying for a job in the next year or two, but you now have a plan.
Right.
You now know, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm working towards, so that in 18 months, when that dream job comes available, you're better matched. You're now 75% green. You have all 3/4 of the skills you need to know how to do.
That is empowering. It really is. And I think that too, with people, that they decide all of a sudden they want to do this, and then it becomes this firing drill, as opposed to this plan that you're thinking about and processing. It's sort of like saving for a house, right? It's just, it's a process. And you don't just like jump in and, start. You might not have the resources or the financing at that point or whatever, but that's so true. The other thing too, that I find, and I like what you had to say, is it's really up to us to craft our own lives and our own careers. And sometimes we put that on other people, like our employer or our supervisor. And there are different challenges within organizations and within management and so on. Yet I think people tend to, this isn't working because of these reasons, and then want to leave the job, as opposed to invest in themselves and know that they have, right? And know that they have this plan in place that's support. It's sort of like when you're in college, right? You're not there yet until you graduate, right? But you're in the process, right? And that's the whole point.
That's the whole point. And that makes it more interesting, right? You may not want to be promoted. You may not want to change departments. But if you take the attitude of I'm a lifetime learner and I'm going to continually develop my skills, you will A, become more valuable with the company, and B, you'll make your job more interesting. Like you're essentially writing your own job description by doing that, of saying, oh, I want to do more of this. I want to use this technology. Let me learn it and then introduce it to the team. It just makes everything, like when you're happier at your job, that extends into your personal life. It extends into your community. It has a bigger impact when you are satisfied internally, rather than waiting for, like, well, if they pay me more, I'd be happier.
Right.
That's not gonna happen in this climate right now. I hate to say it, folks, but right now it's gonna be hard. Compensations are really frozen right now.
Right.
But if you can show your value, if you can have impact, you have a better chance of getting that 10% raise.
Sometimes too, it's about the journey, because sometimes what you set out to do could change into something that was even better, right? Because, or even a surprise of the organization. It's almost like you create your own job description, let's say with an organization or your supervisor, and then all of a sudden they create a job for you because you've invested in a way that also, the other thing, the collaboration that you create, I think that sometimes we work in silos, and employers really are looking for people that are, hand raisers and wanting to jump in and have stretch assignments and to do different things. And so the planning is really great. And to have a coach that helps to craft that, I think this is very difficult to do on your own. Right?
Yeah. Because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what questions you should be asking. Like that simple exercise of go look at the job description, highlight what you know, highlight what
Mhm.
you don't. So many of my clients are like, I never even thought of that.
Mhm.
That never even occurred to me, but it's a
Sure.
very simple first step. I was just talking to a client earlier this morning, and she was like, I don't know if I should take this job, this job, this job, this job. And I said, do you have an interview? She's like, oh, I haven't even applied. And I was like, let's step back. Let's
Mhm.
step back and get organized. A
Mhm.
lot of people, when you're looking at the chaos in your
Mhm.
home and you're
Mhm.
like, I don't know where to start, and you
Mhm.
bring in another voice, help
Mhm.
me figure out where to start. You hire a home organizer that will come in and say, well, let's get some bins together and figure out where things put places in the different bins. I think
Mhm.
working with a coach, working with someone that helps you kind of organize your thoughts and also
Mhm.
ask you the tough questions about your career
Mhm.
of, would you be happy in that? Like sometimes that
Mhm.
simple question of,
Yeah.
I'm happy right now. I don't,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like, well, then why are you going after something else? Oh, because I
Mhm.
thought that's what I was supposed to do.
Do, right?
Yeah.
I wonder too that I would think this process makes a significant difference in the interview process for them, right? Because they are organized, they are prepared, they've had so much time to really invest in what their skill set is and what they're good at and what they're wanting to do. That because many times people stumble in the interview process because they're not they're it's part of the same thing. I mean, you could be prepared for an interview, but this part that we're talking about actually does prepare you because you have more confidence. So yeah, it really makes a difference. So I really like what we're talking about because it is an investment. Also, like you said, it touches so many areas of your life, right?
It's
It's not just work.
it's not just work. I remember when one of my jobs I was really unhappy. Like I cannot tell you just how unhappy I was. I would cry on the way to work in the morning. I would
Aw.
cry walking in the door. I'd sit in the parking lot before I walk in the door and I would negotiate with myself and
Mm,
say, if you get out of the car right now and go into this office, you can go to your favorite Mexican restaurant for lunch, and I'll
mm,
even let you have a little margarita before you come back to the office. Because
mhm.
I was just I had to bargain with myself, and
Wow.
it impacted my relationships
Mhm,
because I was so unhappy, I was so depressed. It impacted my finances because even though I was making good money, I was spending way more money on Amazon and Zappos and going up to wine country and signing up for wine clubs that I don't drink that much wine. But
mhm.
I just was trying to find something to make me happy because I was
Right.
so miserable at the work, even though I was making a good salary. I had a good office, I had a short
Mm,
commute.
mm,
I actually loved the organization,
mm,
but the role was not the right role for me. And
mm,
so once I started, it's actually what motivated me to start my business and to help others start activating their career dreams.
mhm.
Because you work too hard and for too long and for too many hours to be that unhappy.
No, you're right. What's changed for people? I'm just curious about 10 years ago, work doing the work that you do. What is different now? What has changed in our lives, in careers, or has not much changed and it's really the same set of work and circumstances?
No, I think a lot has changed. And, we
Mhm,
harp on the pandemic, even though that's kind of old news. But I
mhm,
think the scale has shifted,
mhm,
that people really do want life work balance. It's not work life balance anymore.
mhm,
They're like,
mhm,
here's my life. Here are the things I want to do with my life. Here's
mhm,
where I want to live. Here's
mhm,
how I want to spend my time.
mhm,
How can I adapt my job
mhm,
to accommodate this life that I want?
mhm.
Versus before, it was like, here's my work and I will build my life around this work.
Right.
No, that is not what people want today. They
Mm,
come into these coaching calls with me and say, here's the kind of life I want. What
mm,
job could I get that's going to match that?
mm,
And compensation is no longer the dominant
mhm,
factor,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Location, working from home, working remotely, those
mhm,
are more dominant. Flexible work schedules, that's very dominant. The
Mhm.
perks, such as, when all the tech companies were doing, we do lunch and we do dry cleaning and all of those. Nope, nope, none of those
Nobody
things. They're
cares.
like, I could do my own laundry. I,
Yeah.
I got a washer dryer. I
Yeah.
can do my own laundry. I don't need
Yeah.
you to do it for me.
Right.
But they're more like, I want to work with good people. I want
Mhm.
to work on things that have a purpose, that I
Mhm.
believe in, that matches my value. So that's really where some of their focus has changed that I've seen in just the last 3 years.
And LinkedIn, that profile and how you show up has changed too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Our brand, like people now understand I have a brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? Before it was about social media, that people were all like, be careful what you post on social media because that's going to impact your hireability.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's really about people are taking a more active role and ensuring they have a professional brand
Mm-hmm.
that speaks to the hiring community. And LinkedIn is a wonderful tool to help them with that. That I see more traction. People are sharing more on LinkedIn about their career struggles. They're no longer just putting on a happy face of
Mm-hmm.
my career is great and I love my job. They're all like, hey, these are some challenges that I'm facing. This is what I'm looking for in my next role. This is how my job search is going. Like I see a lot of posts where people will say, I applied for this many jobs and I'm getting these rejections and
Mm-hmm.
can someone help? Like they're
Mm-hmm.
being, and it's not just, the younger generation. People talk about the millennials and Gen Z and all of that. It's not just them doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I see everybody doing that. I
Mm-hmm.
see everybody saying, here is what's happening. Help.
For sure. And and there's 4 generations in the workplace now. And that's, I mean, everybody's in these different places, but a lot of it actually, the 4 generations for sure, but then there's a lot that it seems like we all want the same thing. It's not separated as much. What are the biggest mistakes people make on their LinkedIn profile? And what are the top 3 that you tend to see?
Number one, they don't have a photo.
Ah.
So I think that's, or a professional photo.
Mhm.
And I don't
Mhm.
mean you have to go to a photo
Mhm.
studio and have one
Mhm.
taken, but
Mhm.
you need to have a headshot. It needs to be shoulders and above, the way you look today, not the way you looked 10 years ago.
Mhm.
It needs to be a neutral background. I don't want to see the hand or the hair of the significant other that you've chopped out of the photo. It needs to be a nice, clean, high resolution, professional photo. I think that's a big thing. I think the second thing is they're not putting enough content in their LinkedIn profile. They're saying,
Mhm.
oh, I want them to ask me about my work history and things like that. If you do not have enough content to capture someone's attention that
Mhm.
shows your value, then they're
Mhm.
not going to call. So you
Mhm.
need to have a completed LinkedIn headline, which
Mhm.
means your work history, you need to show the impact, just like we talk about on the resume. You need to have results that you've achieved at that company for at least your most recent job.
Mhm.
And the final mistake I think people make is they're getting too cute sometimes with it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
like their headline, they have this snazzy headline that says something like office magician and organization guru. You
Mhm.
have to remember that LinkedIn is a search engine
Mhm.
and that the recruiters in the hiring community use the search feature to find you. And they don't understand, like even my title, career activator.
Mhm.
Like no one's going to put career activator in the search box to find me. So
Right.
you'll see in my headline, it says resume writer, career consultant, trainer,
Mhm.
because those are the common phrases and words that
Right.
people are using
Mhm.
to find me. And then,
Mhm.
yes, I have career activator because that's my brand,
Mhm.
but you have to find that balance. Do not get too cute with it. You need to be searchable. So
Right.
your headline, your job titles, the skills section, that lovely skills and endorsement section, because all of that impacts the algorithm that searches for you.
No, those are all so important. The other thing too that I've noticed that, and I think part of this came with the pandemic and sort of so many different things, but a lot of, and I know that I do realize and understand that people want what they're looking for in terms of their life work balance. Sometimes people are too, how do I say this, are too expressive
Yes.
about about the me, I want, I need. And so what an employer will see is this is a high maintenance employee. Would you agree?
I
Could be.
would. I
Mm,
absolutely. I think that people do not realize you have to give your employer, the hiring community, the WIFM. What's in it for me? They don't want a jack of all trades. They don't want a utility player. They want a
mm,
subject matter expert that gets results.
mm,
So your content and your profile on LinkedIn must showcase, here's my expertise and here's the results that were achieved through that expertise.
right.
That's what gets you hired. Or let me
Mhm,
rephrase, that's what gets the phone call that
mhm,
we want to have a conversation with you. You said you led the XYZ campaign that generated the following results. I want to talk about those results. How did you do it? Too many
mhm,
times I see on a profile, they say, here are all the things I did, but you don't
mhm.
tell me the impact of
Right.
all the things that you've done. I actually would rather see the impact
Mhm,
first,
mhm,
because if I see generated 1.2 million in revenue within
mhm.
3 months, secured the largest government contract for the new product, launched a new product within 30 days with no issues, those
Right.
things makes me go, I want to know more about that. That's what makes me reach out to you and say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you about some of
Mhm.
the things you wrote about in your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
And then during the interview, you can share the activities you did. So the results and the impact is really important.
And do you utilize the STAR method with your candidates? Oh,
I
yeah.
do. So
Okay.
STAR, situation, task, action, results, or I use
Mhm,
SOAR, situation, obstacle, action, results.
mhm,
And I tell them that your resume should be the A and the R, the actions and results,
mhm,
not the situation, not the task. So it's the actions and results should be the bullets on your resume. And then you can expand on it in the interview using the STAR method to answer questions. And even that analyzing of that job description, if we go back to that yellow, red, and not yellow, green and yellow exercise, every bullet that you highlighted in green, you should have a STAR story about.
mhm,
Every single one. The way you prepare for an interview is you take that job description, and I use an Excel worksheet or a Microsoft Word table or whatever works, and you put one bullet per cell. And then
mhm,
for each bullet, you put the words, give an example of whatever
mhm,
the bullet says. So manage a diverse team, you put
mhm,
give an example of managing a diverse team. Then you write the STAR story. What's the situation, task, actions,
mhm,
and the results? And I tell people, keep the situation short. It should be one sentence. That's a big mistake people make,
mhm.
is in the situation, they want to give the whole backstory.
Yeah.
They want to tell all the details of all the nonsense and the politics that went on in it. No, no, no. One sentence.
No, no,
I
no.
was put in charge of the XYZ project. The
Right.
task that had to be completed was 1, 2, and 3, three simple tasks. The actions I took. Now, here's the most important part of the STAR story. It's I, five
Mhm,
I's in the A, because too many times we say we did this, and we
mhm,
were in charge of this, and we coordinated this. The goal is to showcase your expertise. So by
mhm,
saying, I budgeted, I coordinated with senior staff, I facilitated the meeting, I wrote the proposal, I used this technology in this project. That is sharing your expertise. And
mhm,
then finally, making sure you have 3 results. And I say, tie those results, first of all, to time. How quickly did you do this? So, time, money, if there was any type of money saved, money
mhm,
generated, and
mhm,
finally, who was happy about the project? Like,
mhm,
what was the difference that was made? And if
mhm,
you do that, if you follow that formula, a
mhm.
short situation, 3 tasks, 5 actions, 3 results focused on time, money, and happiness, you're going to have a great interview.
Absolutely. That's so energizing to hear you talk about it because but I think that I mean really and truly everything you're saying makes sense. It's logical, it is inspiring, and I think it inspires the individual. Yet to do this alone is hard.
It's so hard.
It's so difficult. And I think people go through They just try to just make it happen for themselves. And there's sometimes when I work with candidates, they're not really ready. They want those things, but they're not ready to invest in this way. And sometimes they never are, which is fine. But you have to be in a place where you're ready to embrace these things, because I think it brings up a lot of stuff for people. The interview, we don't want to be rejected. In whatever situation it is in, it doesn't matter what part of life it is. It's not just a job where you're turned down for a job or whatever. And I think what happens for people is it becomes very depressing. And I always tell people, try not to focus on the outcome, focus on the outreach. And we cannot control what other people do, and we can control how we react to things. And it's not up, somebody else can't ruin our day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You let them ruin your day.
Yes.
And so there's that confidence building and that messaging, and you really need to put sticky notes on your desk or do whatever to remind yourself it's like, no problem. And I also think too that people, in terms of communicating appropriately, communication is really, I think in our world right now, communication could improve for so many. And so many times when people, let's say they receive that they're not selected or whatever, and they don't respond to it. They don't respond to that email or that phone call. Mm-hmm. That is a big, huge mistake, because it's how you show up and how you respond in those communications that creates future. I've had so many people that have said, this is the most amazing message that we've received from someone that didn't get the job.
Yes.
And they call them a part of networking.
Yes.
Right.
Right. It's all about relationships. It's all about relationships. And people say, oh, I don't send thank you notes. Yeah. Thank you notes is a huge, huge thing that can make a big difference, because especially if it comes from the heart, that it's realistic, that it's authentic, right? That you're building authentic relationships with this community. It may not be an immediate reaction, but later on down the line, they're going to remember you. And you never know when that phone's going to ring with a great opportunity, because you built a relationship.
Absolutely. So important. What else? Is there anything else you want people to know that are listening? Number one. And number two, I'd like to know a little bit more about how you are structured so that people know how to access whatever services you have to offer, all the services.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to just tell your audience and everyone that you can do this. You can activate your career dreams. Take some time, set aside some time to create a vision of what it is that you want in your next role. Figure out what resources you need, and then set some SMART goals to activate. Create, cultivate, activate. You can do this. Pay attention to your career. Many of us, our career happens to us. Instead, take the wheel. You drive your own career. That is the best thing that you can do to shape the career and the life that you want. The best way people can get a hold of me, so Madelyn, Mackie & Associates, we're a high-touch, high-engagement boutique career management consulting firm. We can help you with your resume, your cover letters, your LinkedIn profiles, your interview prep, your job search strategy, and salary negotiations. The best way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn, so you can reach out to connect with me on LinkedIn. When you go to my profile, click that More button and reach out to connect. Or you can go to my website, madelynmackie.com, MadelynMackie.com, and set up a 30-minute consultation with us, where we're going to talk to you about your career story, your background, where you're coming from, where you want to go, and how we can support you. I have a whole team of resume writers, executive career coaches, a client engagement lead, and me, Madelyn Mackie, that will surround you in career activation.
Oh, I love it. It is just so helpful to have this conversation with you and to learn about all that you do and all that your team does to support people in so many different ways. And I really appreciate having you on today.
Thank
It's a
you,
wonderful
Lauren. Thank
conversation.
you. It's been a pleasure. And, our job is to get our clients ready to work with your team.
Absolutely. We will continue. Well, you're part of our partners we love. Mulberry has a list of partners we love, and you are on that list. So we send people to our partners we love category all the time so they can find people that can help them in their careers. So we appreciate it.
You're welcome. Talk
All
to you
right.
soon.
All right. Thanks again.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. To dive deeper into today's conversations, please visit us at mulberrytalent.com, where you can find additional resources and conversations, learn more about Mulberry, and see our complete service offerings in specialty areas including human resources, administrative office, finance, accounting, payroll, and operations. And don't forget to subscribe to Mulberry Conversations on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform.